session has been properly second. Any discussion? All in favor of that motion signify by saying aye. Any opposed? That motion carries. We're now out of executive session. There was no actions taken in executive session. Mr. Smith.
Mr. Chairman and members of council, that completes the county attorney's report for executive session.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Smith. Next, we have citizens' input for items on the agenda not requiring a public hearing. Okay, I've got two citizens signed up to speak. First, we have Mr. Andy.
Yes.
Okay, if you could come forward, state your name and address for the record.
What was that name again, Mr. Chairman?
I can't do it. Okay.
I probably spelled that a million times.
If you can state your name and address for the record, and you have up to 2 minutes to speak. Thank you, sir.
Andrew Yasinsak.
Just that microphone.
I'm speaking on behalf of the Sierra Club. I'm concerned about the Palmetto Utilities. Oh, sorry, Andrew Yasinsak. I'm at 114 Creek Vista Way, Columbia. That's out in Forest Acres near Trader Joe's. So what I wanted to talk about was the proposal to accept a process leading to the discharge of wastewater from Palmetto Utilities into Spears Creek. I'd like to start out by saying I think that's just not a suitable way to treat the environment of South Carolina. It's something that should not be done. The proposed discharge, and this is a reduced discharge at the moment, which is 3 million gallons a day, was 6 million gallons a day. The company has plans for eventual wastewater capacity much greater eventually under some circumstances, but what they propose is greater than the flow of the stream. 2/3 of that proposed discharge come from an agreement with the city of Columbia to transfer 2 million gallons a day of wastewater to Palmetto Utilities, and that 2 million gallons a day is about 2/3 of the wastewater that they would propose to discharge into Spears Creek. So most of that discharge comes from a situation where the wastewater right now goes into sewers, goes to the Congaree River, where the low flow of that stream is some 700 million gallons a day. Low flow here is 2.5 million gallons. So the South Carolina anti-degradation regulation says that a stream shall not be degraded below the existing conditions. That's a pristine stream. There's no sanitary wastewater in it now, when a reasonable alternative is available. Continuing discharge to the city sewers is clearly a reasonable alternative. That's what's happening now. Another alternative is for Palmetto Utilities to build a pipeline, discharge waste to the Watery River through a permit that they right now have had for more than 15 years, I think close to 20 years, that would allow them not to put this wastewater in Spears Creek, but directly into the Watery River.
All right. Thank you, sir.
All right, thanks very much.
Next, we have Ms. Pamela Greenlaw. Ms. Greenlaw, if you'll state your name and address for the record, and you have up to 2 minutes to speak.
Thank you, sir. My name is Pamela Greenlaw. I live at 1001 Wotan Road in Columbia, and my zip's 29229. I am the current chair of the John Bachman Group of Sierra Club, of which Andy is also a member, and he spoke for Sierra Club from the technical angle, and I'm going to speak from a different angle, and that is not only do we expect our water resources in Richland County to be protected, but I think with this issue that's been going on for a number of years now, I think probably about 2 years, They're very sticky issues. They require a lot of detail. They require a lot of study. And they also require a lot of public input and public, a lot of, public question. I would hope that you would look into having a session where we actually can meet with the various parties, where citizens can meet with the various parties, so that there can be a presentation by them, by Palmetto Utilities, to not only its customers, but to the other entities with whom you are contracting. Having an open and transparent process is something that we really need on this. And I'm trusting and hoping and praying that you will not allow certain interests to have you push it down the road and say, well, DHEC will take care of all of that. DHEC public hearings are not actually workshop-oriented kinds of things. They don't have a give and take of information where the public can ask questions. And that's what I'm asking you to do. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you, Ms. Greenlaw. And that concludes our citizens' input. Next, we have the report of the county administrator, Mr. McDonald.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of council. A couple of items, if I could. The first one is the employee grievance, which Mr. Smith mentioned earlier in his report. If there are questions or anyone would like to discuss that, that would be appropriate for executive session, as Mr. Smith indicated. Otherwise, I would ask that you take a vote on it at this time.
What's this? You've got questions? Okay.
Okay. All right. We'll go on to the next one, the employee recognition. If I could, Mr. Chair, ask Andrea Bowling to come down for just a second. I just wanted to make the council aware. Andrea recently received the Floodplain Manager of the Year award, and we think that is great for her. We're very proud of her. As you know, Andrea worked diligently throughout the flood in October and following the flood with the immediate emergency response, as well as the recovery, which is still, of course, going on. So, again, Andrea's efforts and dedication and commitment have been recognized as, again, having been recognized as the Floodplain Manager of the Year. And again, we're very proud of her. I know that you are as well. And thank you, Andrea, for what you do. She was also at the same conference where she was given the award. She was elected as the vice chair of the SC Association of Hazard Mitigation. So two pluses for Andrea within the last few weeks. So congratulations, Andrea. We're very happy to have you on board.
Congratulations. You want to say a few words?
It was an honor to receive the award. I had no clue until I got there, but it definitely was a group effort. The team that I worked with the most was Development Services, just through the immediate after fact of the flood. The building department with all their inspectors were key going out there. I had a lot of help from Beverly's group and PIO with getting outreach done. Planning helped man a lot of the meetings that we did. I have to give my other shout out to my family that's sitting back there too. And administration and county council was also very receptive and supportive with a lot that we were trying to do, and citizens and the VOAD groups as well, that some of them are here. So it was definitely a team group effort that hopefully we can continue.
Well, congratulations again.
Will you
Thank you.
introduce your family for us?
You want to introduce your family?
Sure. That's my husband, Chris, City of Columbia police officer, and then my daughter, who's not paying attention, is Taylor.
Mr. Chairman, point of personal privilege.
Yes, sir.
I did not know Ms. Bowling at all prior to the flood. She was just someone who worked in the basement. She and I,
It is the
because I had
basement.
no flood. But since we've had the flood, she and I have spent a substantial amount of time together. The thing I've been most impressed with is her sense of compassion for the people that she's worked with. She really cares about it. It's not just a job for her, interpreting ordinances and policies and all the red tape that you go through in the bureaucracy. It's those people out there who've been impacted by this flood that she seems to care. She's patient with them. No matter how many times they call them on the phone, I can give you a list of the ones, there's two of them sitting right out there now, and I'm looking at, who would, I think, nod their heads in agreement with me. And it has been a wonderful experience for me getting to know her. She is a true professional person. We are really fortunate to have her, and this award was certainly deserved. I wish we could have given it to you.
And I do have one more too. The state coordinator, Maria Cox Lamb, is also back there. She was out in the trenches with Richland County, partially because we are here in Columbia. Without her help and support as well and guidance, you know I couldn't have done half of what we got accomplished. So another special shout out to Maria back there with us too. So
Thank you. All right, thank you.
Thank
Mr.
you.
McDonald?
Yep, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Secondly, I'd like to introduce to you a couple of new employees who you may have met at this point, but I know many of you may have not met them either, also. Chris Broett, if you would stand up, Chris. Chris is our newest member of the Public Information Office. Chris is from Tallahassee, Florida. He graduated from Florida A&M University with a degree in journalism and graphic communication and majored in graphic design. He's got a background and experience working with a variety of industries such as the newspaper industry, government, and the entertainment industry. We're happy to have Chris with us. He's going to do tremendous things in our graphic design area, as well as an entire comprehensive public information effort. So, again, join me, please, in welcoming Chris to the staff, and he's going to do great things for us. And lastly, Mr. Chairman, one more introduction, Tiffany Harrison. I know some of you have met Ms. Harrison. I know especially the members of the Economic Development Committee have met her. Tiffany is our new Assistant Economic Development Director. She has 16 years of experience in the economic development profession. She was the Fairfield County Economic Development Director for 9 years. And prior to that, held several positions in grants administration at the South Carolina Department of Commerce for 6 years. And of course, in economic development, we work very closely with the Department of Commerce. So that's a good link and connection there. So we're happy to have her on board as well. With Fairfield County, just a bit of what she did there. Under her leadership, the county built 2 spec buildings, assembled, master planned, and developed a 686-acre Class A industrial park, partnered with Midlands Technical College to site and construct a quick jobs facility in Winsboro, and announced more than 861 jobs and $33.5 million in new investment within a 4-year period. She graduated from Columbia College and is a South Carolina certified economic developer. So again, she's going to do tremendous things for the department and certainly lend a lot of support to Jeff and the team over there. So please, again, join me in welcoming Tiffany to the staff. And Mr. Chairman, the last item on my list, the agreement with proposed agreement with Palmetto Utilities. I believe we're scheduled to discuss that in executive session, so I'll pass on that at this point.
Okay, thank you. And to all the new employees, welcome. Welcome. Next, we have the report of the Clerk of Council.
Yes, sir.
Ms. Only.
My first item is a reminder for council of the Decker Center renovation tour. That's Thursday from 9 to 11. If you haven't already, let me know. Please let me know if you're planning to attend. And my next item is the Sexual Assault Awareness Denim Day, which is next week. We'd ask that everyone wear their denim that day in honor of that. Thank you. That's my report.
Question, Mr. Chairman?
Is that, that's not on council day, though. It's on Wednesday? Wednesday. Okay.
Question real
Yes.
quick. The tour, is that a public tour or is that just staff?
No, it's just for council and staff.
Okay, okay. All right.
All right. Does that conclude your report? Thank you, Ms. Only. Next, we have the report of the chair. I only have one item. Mr. Pierce, you have
Yeah.
a survey.
Yeah, very briefly, the insurance committee needs your help. We do not want to go through a process and then bring you something that we know is not going to pass. We, with Mr. Hannah's help, we have a very, very brief one-page survey. And we'd like to ask y'all to fill it out. It's just your thoughts about insurance, and it would help us tremendously prepare the insurance program. So I'm gonna pass them out, and if you fill them out tonight, that'd be great. If you can, get them back to us as soon as possible. I appreciate it. It's not difficult. Anyway, that's it, Mr. Chairman.
All right, thank you, Mr. Pierce. That concludes my report. Next, we have third reading items. Item number 11, an ordinance amending the Richland County Code of Ordinance, Chapter 26, Land Development, so as to add cigar bars as a permitted use with special requirements in the NC, GC, M1, LI zoning districts. Chair, entertain a motion. Got a motion for approval. It's been properly second. Any discussion? All in favor of that motion signify by raising your hand.
In favor, Rose, Malinowski, Dixon, Jackson, Pierce, Rush, and Manning.
Any opposed, like sign? That motion carries. Can you reconsider that?
I'm sorry.
Can you clinch the item?
Mr. Chair, move to reconsider.
I got a motion for reconsideration. It's been properly second. Any discussion? All in favor of reconsideration signify by saying aye. Any opposed?
Nay.
That motion fails. Next, we have second reading items. Item 12, an ordinance amending the fiscal year 2015-16 general fund annual budget to appropriate $62,751 to increase funding to the Board of Zoning Registration and Elections Department plans to conduct scheduled elections, operating equipment, and staff, including staff. Chair, entertain a motion. We got a motion for approval. It's been properly second.
Mr. Chairman.
Any discussion? Yes. Mr. Malinowski.
I think Mr. McDonald's going to say the same thing.
Okay, Mr.
Maybe so. Mr. Chairman, an updated spreadsheet was sent out to the council in the amended agenda yesterday, I believe, by the clerk's office. And there is an updated number now as far as the amount of the budget amendment is concerned. The $62,751 that is in the title of the ordinance and in the ordinance itself should actually be, with the updated information, $86,362. And again, that is based on information from the elections and voter registration director, Mr. Self.
Whoa. One moment, please. Mr. Malinowski, you had your hand up first. Did you want to?
We'll go ahead and clarify this because mine is different.
So this wasn't the original number that came to us. This is
This is, again, an updated spreadsheet from elections, which we just recently received. And the 86,000 number that I mentioned, if you will look on the spreadsheet on the right where it has the three elections that could possibly happen. Of course, the primary will definitely happen, and then there may be a runoff. The general election, however, is out of play at this point because everyone running is of the same party, I believe, for that seat. So the special election that would have been scheduled for July will not take place and won't be needed. So you can forget about that column. The first two columns, the primary and the runoff, the primary number you'll see at the bottom is 45,896. and the runoff total is 40,466 if that election has to take place. So if you add those two together, you get the 86,362, which will be the amount of the budget amendment. Now, the second part of that, the 40,466, would only be spent, of course, if there were to be the runoff. So that may not be needed as well, but we included it in the number because right now we just don't know whether it's going to happen or not.
Okay, thank you, Mr. McDonald. Mr. Malinowski.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The way that the ordinance reads currently indicates that we're voting to increase funding to the Board of Voter Registration and Elections Department plans to conduct scheduled elections, operating equipment, and including staffing. That leaves it very general and wide open. And I've spoken with Mr. Madden earlier today and asked, I believe we need to be more specific. There'll be new language coming out which will say that this dollar amount is to fund the costs to conduct the special election for the vacated District 10 seat. So the public knows exactly what this funding is for. And having said that, I'm sure there's some reason, but boy, this sure sounds like a typical government deal here. And you can email me later with the answer, whoever has it. But we've got 82 managers and like about 46 workers. I don't get it. We got 82 poll managers, 15 clerks, 8 assistant clerks, some staff here at the building election day. So I just don't understand why we need that many managers to manage that few people. That's on that spreadsheet, so.
Right.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Malinowski. Mr. Pierce.
That's a good question, Mr. Malinowski. I mean, do we know how many well, I'm not going to get in that because I'm not running an election and I don't know how, so I'm not going to question that. My question is this. We were asked for $62,751, all right? That was what we were asked for. Now we're now asked for $85,000, $86,000 roughly, all right? How did we go from 62 to 85 in 1 week or 2 weeks or whatever? What got recalculated?
Yeah. Mr. Pierce, I'm not sure I can answer that. Again, that the updated information, and I'll let Mr. Madden chime in if he's got the information, but this spreadsheet, again, was information that was provided by the elections director after the first reading at the 62,000 level. And again, I'm not sure Mr. Madden can answer either.
Yeah, Brandon Madden, research manager. There were apparently some calculation errors in the original spreadsheet that was provided, and so those were corrected and provided to our finance department, and that's the updated sheet. So that's the short answer. That's pretty much all I kind of know.
Clarification. Calculation errors from the elections department when they submitted the budget request?
I believe so. There were just a few errors and things didn't add up correctly, and I believe they had a conversation with our finance director. There was some additional information that they needed to include that was not included, and they provided that information, so it changed the actual total amount to what you have in front of you now.
How do we know that's not more pervasive in their overall budget and their request? I mean, that's
still a clarification.
Oh, yeah, I'm sorry.
digress.
I'm sorry, Mr. Rose.
I digress.
You're right. Mr. Pierce, you still have the floor. I'll put you down, Mr. Rose.
Okay. Do we know how many precincts are in that district?
Yeah, 16
There are 15,
and 1 absentee.
15 precincts and 82 poll managers. I mean, that really doesn't make a lot of sense, does it? If there were 15 precincts, even if you had a backup, that would be 30. We're paying for 82. I don't know. Okay.
Chair, entertain a
I'll be
motion.
going. I don't know the answer to that, and there's nobody here to answer it. So The other question is this. All right, we're going to appropriate $85,000. All right.
Yes, that's
Is it clearly
correct.
written into that the understanding is that if there were a majority in the first and no runoff,
Right.
the remaining money does come back to the county?
Yes.
It does not remain in the,
Yes.
cover other expenses that
Yes, that second 40,000, Mr. Pierce, excuse me, but that second 40,000 for the runoff, if the runoff is not needed, that could not be used by the department for other purposes. That would come back to the general fund. Yes.
all right.
Okay.
I
Mr.
would
Rose?
like to get an answer to the question though, about the 82 poll managers for 15 precincts. Sure.
Mr. Rose?
I'm fine.
All right, Mr. Malinowski.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. As Mr. Madden said here, that we've had a calculation error of some type to the tune of $24,000, which is 40% difference from the original amount asked for. Now, this is supposedly coming from a department that knows what they're doing. And we approved the $62,000 on the first reading. This is second reading, correct? So until we see those calculation errors and where they lie, I'm not in favor of increasing anything and would make a substitute motion to approve the amount we first approved of $62,751.
Okay, I got a motion. It's been properly seconded. Any more discussion? This is, all in favor of that motion signify by raising your hand.
In favor, Rose, Malinowski, Dixon, Pierce, Rush, Manning.
Any opposed, like sign?
Opposed, Jackson.
That motion carries. Next, we have the report of the Rules and Appointments Committee. Mr. Malinowski.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Item number 13A, the terms of service can be found on page 38 of the agenda, and the committee unanimously recommends approval to accept that language.
Okay, you heard the committee's recommendation. Any discussion? All in favor of that recommendation signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion carries. Mr. Malinowski.
Item number 13B, the membership requirement for Business Service Center Appeals Board. The language for that can be found on page 41, and the committee unanimously recommends to accept that language.
You heard the committee's recommendation. Any discussion? All in favor of that motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion carries. Mr. Malinowski.
That concludes my report, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Malinowski. Next, we have the report of the Ordinance Review Committee. Is that Mr. Malinowski?
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Ms. Dixon, I'm sorry.
Item number 14, an ordinance amending Richland County Code of Ordinance, Chapter 26, Land Development, Article number 6, Supplement Use Standard, Section 26-152, Special Exception, Subsection D, Standards, Paragraph 22, Radios, Television and Other Transmitting Towers, Subparagraph C, Clause 1, so as to amend the setbacks requirement for tower abutting residential zoned parcels. Mr. Chair and members of council, the committee had recommended sending this to council without, for approval. Since then, we have gathered, staff had approached me and informed me about additional information that they would like to include in this ordinance before we pass it, so we're asking for deferral.
Okay, that's the committee's recommendation. The committee's recommendation is for deferral. Deferral is non-debatable. All in favor of that recommendation signify by saying aye. Any opposed?
Nay.
Division. All in favor of deferral signify by raising your hand.
In favor, Malinowski, Dixon, Jackson, Rush.
All opposed?
Opposed, Rose, Pierce, Manning.
That motion carries.
That concludes the report. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Ms. Dixon. Next, we have other items.
When it's coming
It'll
back?
come back in first.
When?
Next month.
Yep.
Next council meeting?
Next council meeting. Yep.
Can we get Mr.
So,
Price to
when?
comment to that?
Well, one of the things that since you have the ordinance before you, staff has received a number of some information from other tower companies that have done work in Richland County, and they've given us some information from other jurisdictions. And what staff is requesting is that we have a chance to look at those other jurisdictions so that we can make sure that what we give you is thorough rather than continuing to come back with amendments. And so we would just ask if you just give us a chance to look at the ordinances from other jurisdictions, and then we will bring a new ordinance before you.
All right, thank you.
Point of clarification.
This,
Is it your intent to revise it?
Yes, sir.
So if you're planning to revise it, it's going to have to go back to the ordinance review committee because it would not be then the same ordinance, correct?
Correct. Or it could.
it can come before council.
It would come back here
Yeah.
with revisions.
Yeah.
Or
Okay,
what reading would that be?
that's an ordinance, so it will require,
That'd
that'd be first reading.
First reading.
Yeah. No, it's been deferred. That item's been deferred already.
Okay, so
All
that
right.
would be, when it comes back revised, it would be first reading.
Yeah. All right. Thank you, Mr. Price.
Thank you.
Next, we have other items. Item 15, a resolution to appoint and commission James T. Harmon, Steve A. Huntley, Elijah Cowser Jr. as code enforcement officers to the proper security, general welfare, and convenience of Richland County. Got a motion for approval. It's been properly second. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? That motion carries. Next, we have resurfacing package H construction contract. Got a motion for approval. It's been properly second. Any discussion? All in favor of that motion signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? That motion carries. Next, we have citizens' input. Must pertain to items not on the agenda. We have one citizen signed up to speak, Ms. Wendy Brawley. If you can come forward, state your name and address for the record. You have up to 2 minutes to speak.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, members of council. My name is Wendy Brawley. I live at 217 Sagemont Drive in Hopkins, South Carolina. And I'm coming to speak with you today on 2 points of concern for us in Lower Richland. The first has to do, of course, with the Lower Richland Sewer Project. We've been here back and forth with council for almost 2 years on this issue. And I just want to call your attention to what is happening to citizens in Georgetown County who adopted a similar very large sewer project that was to be an enterprise system, and they could not repay the bond. And as a result, assessments were given to all those along the sewer line. Many people are now losing their homes, and believe it or not, some are even being taken to jail. You can check the article, it's in Georgetown Times, and it is very sad to see what's happening to people as they lose their land because they are not even signed up for the sewer project, but are along the line of the project. The second issue that I'd like to speak to you about is one that actually we've had a couple of emails exchanged about with your chair, and that has to do with the budget process. As you know, folks in District 10, where I live, we don't have a current representative on council. It's very unfortunate for us because you are in the midst of the budget cycle, and we have no one to represent us. And we really think that that's important, that we have some voice. So we've tried to suggest some options. I'd like to at least be able to say citizens can come to the budget work sessions and be given an opportunity to have some input, which is not typical, we know, but it's necessary because we're in a very unusual set of circumstances that we have no representation on council during the time the budget is being determined. By the time this special election is complete, we will be in a new fiscal year. And that is very unfair to those of us who are left without anyone to represent our needs. And while there is another Lower Richland representative on council, that person does not represent the residents in District 10. So I really would ask you to put on your creative hats. I know we've talked about this, to see what can be done to allow those of us who really feel as though we need an input, at least into the process before all the money is decided, that we be given an opportunity during your work sessions to have some input. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman. All right.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, in light of what Mr. Raleigh brings up a very good point. If you'd permit a motion, I would move that we conduct either a work session or a public hearing on the budget in Lower Richland. Would that be helpful?
No.
The decision hadn't already been made. Yes, sir, that would be outstanding.
Yep.
That is one of the,
Is that a second? Well, that's a motion.
That's a motion.
Can I get a second? Okay. It's been properly second. Mr. Jackson.
yes, as was discussed at earlier discussions with some of my colleagues, that because of the district situation with District 10, we would try to have some public hearing or something in the Lower Richland community in that district to address the budget process, just to be fair and give the citizens some input. So we're working on a date, and I'll make a recommendation to council so we can move forward. Thank you.
All right. Any more discussion? Mr. Malinowski.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. As with our work sessions, we always hold them here. Everyone's welcome to attend, and rather than cart the whole system to Lower Richland, I was going to make the motion that we amend our rules, if we legally can do that, to allow a representative to speak back and forth with council during those work sessions here. And that representative could speak at every work session then, so that we would get the input from those
But
individuals.
the only issue I would have with that, who would be designated?
I said
There's
it's
no
up to them to
election.
designate a representative. There'd be
Yeah.
one person.
But they're getting ready to have an election to do that.
Yeah. So
And a citizen's representative.
I think it.
So they have to have a group.
Yeah, I think we can be flexible enough to have either a work session or a public
Kind of a public
input
hearing.
session in Lower Richland area. I think we can be flexible enough to do that as a council,
I think Hopkins Park in general.
due to the circumstances.
Yeah, we all go down there.
Yeah.
Hopkins, they call it Hopkins Line District.
Oh, that's right.
All right. Any more discussion? All in favor of that motion signify by raising your hand.
In favor, Rose, Malinowski, Dixon, Jackson, Pierce, Rush, Manning.
Any opposed, like sign? That motion carries. Next, we have executive session. Mr. Smith, could you name those items one more time for executive session?
Mr. Chairman and members of council, we have item 7B, Department of Revenue update. Item C has already been addressed. We have item D, Palmetto Utilities, and we have item E, Recreation Commission update. If there are any questions regarding that particular matter.
The
I'll
grievance.
address that. And an employee grievance, if the council has any questions about that.
So moved.
Okay, I got a motion for executive session. It's been properly second. Any discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? That motion carries. We're now in executive session.